Hello, folks. This is Willie with Laser to Leather on the UV Laser channel. So, we are going to get right into this. And so, if you'll notice, I've got light burn started up, connected to my laser already, and I've just drawn just a square box here just so we can look at our cuts and layers. And the biggest thing you're going to notice right off the bat is that you cannot adjust the power on your laser. The UV laser with light burn automatically sets at 80 at the max power, and you don't have any adjustment on it. So what do? What does that mean? We're going to use the frequency and the Q pulse width along with the speed to litigate what our power is going to be. So to do that, you need to understand a little bit about these two here, frequency and Q pulse width. So what is a Q pulse width? The Q pulse width is the time between the start of each pulse and the start of the next pulse. Now, what that means essentially when it comes to the UV laser is that the Q pulse in the 1 nanosecond is essentially almost running at full power, okay? Whereas when you get up in the higher range, it begins to drop down to the other end, into the weaker range. We're going to run a test grid here in a moment, and I'm going to be able to demonstrate that. But as you know, again, just to recap, your frequency is the number of pulses of each second, whereas, again, the Q pulse is the time between the start of each pulse and the start of the next pulse. So it's kind of like a fine tune, okay? And so your speed is going to be your way of really adjusting the amount of power that's being applied to an object. Since my business is laser to leather, the first item we're going to run a test grid on is a piece of veg tan leather. And so to do that, let's just cancel out of here. Go over to Laser Tools. Go to the Material Test. And I have a preset in here. And one of the biggest things you're going to work with is your frequency and your Q pulse. So we're going to run a test grid using those two settings. Since I'm working with leather, we're going to go ahead and bring our speed up to, let's say, about 1,000. So our frequency and Q pulse you don't need to mess with because that's going to be part of the settings in your test grid. Okay? And push OK. Lines per inch is another way that you can kind of adjust how much of the laser is being applied in that little section. So I like to run somewhere around 800. You can get tighter with the UV laser. If you're running with glass, you probably want to go up towards 1,000 and even higher. Okay. But we'll touch on glass here on another one. All right. So we're going to do okay there. Make sure that you go into your material setting, or for your line setting, the blue box over here, text setting, and go in and make sure that it's set at 1, and go ahead and slow the speed down just to make sure that you're going to get a mark, because it's going to be important to be able to see what the different settings are in there when it writes it down. I just use a bi-directional. Don't worry about a crosshatch or anything right now. Not with leather anyway. You can try it if you'd like, but I don't see a need into it. And push OK. So we're good there. Let's go ahead and switch your view to the laser cam. All right, I have some material here, and even though you can't see my ugly mug, I do have my safety glasses on right here. Okay, make sure you have them. Okay, folks, put them on them eyeballs, protect them. You only got a set of 2, and one of these lasers can take them out very quickly. All right, let's get this set in here. I know I've already got my focus. I cheated, so got the focus in there, and let's frame it up. Now, folks, you're fixing to find out, which, as you can see, I've already cheated a little bit, but why I really like a UV laser. These things are incredible. All right, so let's get on with it. Make sure I got everything. Back. Obviously, for those of you who's never tried to use leather before, it does have a smell to it. To me, I don't mind it. Some people just, I've heard everybody describe it from everything from burnt hair, but I don't smell that. Uh, it's not pleasant, but it's not unpleasant. It's not intolerable. But anyway, yeah, so you're going to want to have some ventilation. You can see a little bit of the smoke already. Now, I've got this fine-tuned down quite a bit. You'll notice, as I said, I went from 1 to 10 on my parameters for the Q pulse, and 20 to 50 on my frequency parameter. You can open that parameter up a little bit and, run up there in the 20s on your Q pulse, and perhaps even higher, to fine tune your adjustment. But this is the way you start. Okay. You might start with your larger spacing and then work your way down. But so we got that run already. This is one of the reasons why I like to run in that 800 line. You get up there way up on them lines, and it just takes forever to run these test grids. So this is what the results are. It's beautiful. Let's see if I can get you You're going to have to pardon me here. I'm going to shake you around a little bit. I'll try to get some more cameras in here. Just getting really started out, guys. Okay. So this is running at 1,000 speed right here. And as you can see, at a 20 frequency, you can see how it lightens up across here. And as you're going up, it's darkening up. So things are a little bit different than on a normal fiber laser. But one of the things I want you to notice is that when it comes to a UV laser, it marks much, much cleaner, both than a CO2 and a fiber. There is no cleanup here. It's beautiful. Okay. So I'm looking at my test grid here, and this kind of tells me if I want a really good contrasting mark, then I need to run somewhere in the 50 on my frequency, and probably somewhere in about a 4 to 5. So if I ran this test, by running this test grid right here, folks, what this tells me that I need to do is to probably actually jump my speed up and to run my frequency around the 50 mark and go higher. So start at 50 and go higher, and then start at 10 on my Q pulse and go higher. What that will do is it will let me walk out of its range, out of its engraving range, okay, marking range. And that will begin to let me start getting that lower gradient, and it will let me get into that little perfect point where I can go above or below. But obviously, anything in the settings as far as a 50 frequency and 5 Q pulse, and so the next one would be a speed. So let's go ahead and do a speed. Okay. All right. So let's change your camera back over again. So since we've done there, let's go ahead and do a speed. Oh yeah, let's do this. Let's go ahead and keep this large interval, 1 to 1. Let's see. No, actually, I did 1,000, so I'm going to do 1,000 to 2,000. And I am going to bring this to 10 here. And bring this to 30. Okay. And I need to cut me another piece of leather. frame this over. Get you back over here where you can see what's going on. Now, right off the bat, you've noticed the difference. Now, all of a sudden, I am beginning to get out of the marking range as far as on the Q pulse. You see how that's doing that? Okay. So there you go, folks. This gives you an excellent example of your Q pulse range. So at 16.7 on my Q pulse, it goes from 16 to 18, completely drops out. I know I can see a little bit of a mark right here, but it drops off. As far as on my speed, 16.7 coming up, then I start seeing a difference. And I'm running a 45 on my frequency. So that 2000 in my speed and frequency 45 and a Q pulse of 15. That is going to be my setting. Now, let's go back over to light burn. Come over to your cuts and layers. Whoops. Close that. And so we said 45. That's correct. We said speed. 2000. Okay. Q pulse. We're going to run that over to 15. The lines per inch, 800. And I have bidirectional field. Push OK. Now go over here to the library right there. You see right here? And you'll see that there's already a bunch of stuff in here. But we are actually going to create a new right here. It says create new from layer. And then just put leather. UV. Actually, I'm surprised this actually loaded, to be honest with you. To load. So, leather in, and then title leather UV. Push OK. So now you have a parameter for your UV leather. Curveball on me, but that's the way you set up a new uh, um, parameter in your library. Okay. So I appreciate you folks. Great evening, and I'm going to sign off.